Welcome back, college baseball fans, to another episode of ACC Central Coach's Corner. I'm Monty Taylor. I am joined today by Virginia Tech hitting coach and recruiting coordinator Kurt Elbin. Coach, thank you so much for coming on again this season.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Monty. Per usual, man. Respect and appreciate what you do for our league, and it's been fun to watch. We've had some good guys on too, so they've been a joy to listen.
Thank you. Hey, I've been trying to get a couple of new coaches in there and get some of the other teams. Last year it was, kind of who followed me. And then this year I found some more that had followed me. And then also, trying to get a little bit more variety in there. So, but always pleased to talk to you and talk some Virginia Tech baseball. Before we get into, talking about the Hokies, the 2026 version, let's talk a little bit about your coaching journey. You're coming up on a decade, by the way, at Virginia Tech. I think this is going to be your ninth season.
Yeah, eighth
Uh,
or ninth, just depends if you count COVID. So
Right, right. So
2020.
that's right. Yeah, ninth year, eighth season, whatever, depending on what. But yeah, talk to me a little bit about your coaching journey and how you got to Blacksburg.
It's been a roller coaster, and certainly have appreciated every stop along the way. But man, I was a average player and didn't have a professional, just a path after that, and didn't play Division I baseball. So when my opportunities came early in my career, they were at lower levels, which I respect. And it's funny to come full circle with the portal. You're recruiting Division III and Division II baseball players now. But anyway, it started at a small school called Muhlenberg in Eastern Pennsylvania, across the state for a couple of years at Teal College, and both Division III stops, Division II PSAC Power. I enjoyed my time there with Matt Jones. It was great. Learned a lot. Had the opportunity then to spend the next couple years at VCU under Paul Keys, the late Paul Keys, for a short, brief stint, and then Coach Stiff, who's obviously at Notre Dame, and had a lot of success. Enjoyed my time there. Learned a lot. I've learned a lot along all the stops, but Coach Stiff has been a big part of who I am and what I do as a coach. And then we had I thought a good run and had a good reputation in the state here in Virginia when Coach Sheff got the job and when he left Maryland to come to Virginia Tech. Called me up and haven't looked back, and here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And Coach Shep is an interesting character. He's very good at what he does. And I know the last couple of years have been kind of rocky, but it seems like you've had tournament caliber teams. It's just kind of getting over the finish line and getting into the tournament. And it's hard, I feel like, when things start going poorly, to pull out of that kind of tailspin. I think that's what makes some of these bigger conferences so difficult. Uh, is you don't get a break to kind of rebound. You're immediately playing, best teams in the country every week. But talk to me a little bit about working with Coach Chef.
I've enjoyed it a lot. And I think the biggest aspect of that is just his ability to allow his assistants to work and improve their daily craft and working at their craft daily. So he has his input, but he's not a micromanager. And I probably said it 100 times in everything that I've been asked about Coach Chef and podcasts and interviews, but he is the best guy to work for from a quality of life perspective. And I think that allows me just the flexibility to handle 3 kids and a wife, and it allows me to continue to grow as a coach. So to balance just the daily struggles and juggling all the schedules that I do at home, Coach Chef has been awesome in that regard. He truly is a player's coach. He wants to make sure people are put into positions where they can be successful, not only as us as coaches, but our team and our guys. So he's been a joy to work for.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've noticed whenever I talk to somebody who's either played for him or coached with him. They love him. It's pretty universal. As a media member, I get a little bit of a different version of him. He's obviously ultra competitive, and I think taking those losses quite hard. And I've had the unfortunate coincidences of when I typically have had to interview him, it was late in the season at the when things have just kind of piled up. So it's really cool to hear how great he is, and what he does with the players, because again, the players seem to love playing for him. And from what I hear from you, it's great. He's a guy to root for. You've been the recruiting coordinator. Congratulations on a great class making it to campus. We're hearing some buzz about a couple of guys. I want to talk a little bit about recruiting, and especially here in the modern baseball era. it's not just high school recruiting anymore. You got to find that right balance between transfers and freshmen. How do you go about that process?
It changes every year. It gets tougher and tougher. I think the biggest thing that we've had to do or we've tried to do is not really have a, hey, this is a formula. We want to have these many guys come from the portal. We want to have this big of a high school class. This is our junior college outlook. It's just, we need to spread a wide net. We certainly want to make sure if we have a chance to sign a player that's good and can make our team better, we want to do it. So we're not really putting all our eggs in one basket, and we're not able to do that, right? I think it's become harder and harder to outwork and out recruit programs that you're not only in your league, but across the country because of just the money aspect. So, I think we've had to pivot and we've had to audible a little bit. And I think for me, that comes from just creating relationships at all certain levels, not only where we're working, but in the junior college level and then in the travel ball world and in the high school ranks, so we can cast that wide net and hopefully get the best players to campus. So it's changed a lot. Certainly just looks like teams are just trying to buy rosters. And don't get me wrong, we're a part of that whole thing and it's just where it's at. So, you either adapt or you die and hopefully we're doing a good job adapting.
Yeah, one of the things, I mean, the high school development part isn't going away. It's just a little bit, it's really a lot more high end, and you got to hope that if guys don't want to necessarily waste their time on the bench, but there's development time. And one of the things I think Virginia Tech has done a decent job of the last couple of years is you've had a couple of guys who maybe didn't play a ton as a freshman, but they're back and they get those opportunities as maybe a sophomore or a junior.
And for those guys to make it, which in today's day and age, they don't, they usually leave. I think for those guys to make it, they've probably been taken care of really well at other programs, including ours, but also they're probably really good people, which kind of sometimes outshines, what they're able to give you early on in their career. They're making your program better without the production on the field, and it allows you to keep a couple guys that might have a tool that you think is going to shine through and it's going to develop into something really good. And they're good people and they make your program better. It's, guys like Sam Tackett, guys like, down the list, Ethan Gibson will be one this year, Clay Grady, Cook, all the guys that have kind of stuck around and maybe have just been, I don't want to call them average players, but just haven't really burst onto the scene yet. I think it's because they're good people and they've believed in our ability to develop them and keep them here, and they're taken care of.
Absolutely, and I enjoy the kind of recruiting you get because talking to some of these guys, they feel like Virginia Tech players. Like obviously talking to Ethan Gibson, it sounds like he's wanted to be a Virginia Tech Hokie his entire life. And then on the other side, Jackson Cherry, who's no longer eligible, but he was one of my favorites last year. He seemed like he played 4 years at Mercer, but still seemed born to be a Hokie.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's when you get to Virginia Tech, the culture, just the campus feel, I think the way our staff has rallied around that, there's certain guys that are just phenomenal fits. And you can watch them, you can get around their family, watch their social media, and you're like, man, that guy's he'd be the perfect Hokie. And Gibby and Cherry, and the list goes on and on. But the guys you mentioned, you're right. It doesn't always work out right away, but I think that is one of the blessings of the portal is to grab guys like Cherry and the guys even we have here right now. Owen Petrich is a really good example. We can talk about him later, but guys that fit into this Southwest Virginia blue collar. It's just the culture here, and it fits and it works for a lot of guys.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if I'm picking up on it easier because I lived in Roanoke for, 6 or 7 years, which is only about 35 minutes away from you guys. If I'm maybe just more attuned to the Southwest Virginia grit and culture, but I just immediately talk to some of these guys and I'm like, it makes sense that he's a Virginia Tech Hokie. Uh, Talking about the pitching before we get into it, we've got a new pitching coach in Blacksburg, Doug Willie, and that's combined with some unprecedented pitching depth. I feel like you guys have Griffin Steig coming back from injury. You have Bad Clement presumably coming back from injury, along with Brett Renfro, who's probably the most underrated ace in the conference. And then you brought in Ben Weber. You brought in one of the best JUCO pitchers in the country, Aiden Robertson, who turned down going to the draft. And you bring a big time freshman. And how's the coaching staff and the players feeling about the pitching depth? Because that's kind of been where I think some of the lack of depth in the past has kind of come back to bite you.
Yeah, yeah, it's been refreshing. It's good in terms of just the overall product that we're seeing right now and how we've concluded the fall. There's some really good pieces, obviously, and it starts with Renfro, but I just think the mentality of the group has changed, and for the better. There's sometimes change is a good thing, right? And new blood and new ideas, all those things that I feel like being a baseball coach, you're going to become a part of at some point. Uh, the staffs are bigger now, right? So you're going to have pieces moving in and out. But Coach Willie, Chase, Loomis, they've done a great job with our guys. They seem like it's just a really good group to be around. There's a lot of pieces that I feel like can impact not only the rotation, but just the middle to the back end of the bullpen in different ways. And there's seems to be a lot of interchangeable parts, which hopefully is a really good thing. But in terms of just firepower at the front end, it's probably one of the better groups that we've had since we've been here.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, if you get those 2 guys back, I mean, the question is the health issue with, those were major injuries, so it's always a question there, but if those guys are back to full strength, you've got 4 bona fide top quality starters, on top of, somebody like Logan Eisenrich who got some experience kind of as an opener last year, so it's just and Chase Swift, who I think got some is in the midweek, so
Yep.
it's a lot of depth. Feels like the most depth you guys have had in about a decade.
Yeah, no, it is. And we lucked I don't say we lucked into it. We got lucky in the draft, right? That doesn't happen all the time. But usually when kids from the junior college ranks or even just an older guy like Stig, they get drafted and usually it's like bye-bye. But hopefully it's just a sign of, Coach Chef and what he's done here and just the ability to come here and kids enjoy it here. They get taken care of, like I said, and they're developed well. And, hopefully it shows come springtime.
Absolutely. And before we get into talking about this year's team and this year's offense, talk a little bit about the development of a trio of players. We'll start with Sam Tackett, who was a guy that you guys had been bullish on for a couple of years as a guy who could break out and just he was getting a little bit of opportunities but wasn't quite hitting. And then last year he finally blows up as a grad student. Talk to me about how great that was for you guys and how kind of getting that finally breaking through felt for him.
Yeah, it's kind of why we do what we do, right? To see kids break through, to find a way to get a kid over the hump, especially a kid that is as good of a person as Sam was and is, and to this day will go down as one of my all time favorites to coach. But that's like I said, it's why you do what you do. It's kind of one of those things where you look back and you're like, this is why I got into it, right? To see kids flourish and develop, and we use a lot of different tricks and tools to try to get Sam in the right spot, but he always had that potential and in real power and just played with his hair on fire, so had an edge to him and was always really good for our group. And he is why some of those groups didn't fall apart earlier, or why I feel like we were really good, even with him not playing, is just because he pushed so many people because of his work ethic and what he did on a daily basis. So yeah, and his struggles never came from a physical perspective. It was good to see him get over the hump. Amena, he worked so hard. He expected success, and sometimes it didn't come. And I think it beat him up, and he started to search. And just watching him mature through that, even in his junior year to his last year, was obviously a awesome thing to be a part of.
That's one of my favorite things about watching baseball because so many things are it's mental, and the problem is when you press, and it's not a sport where you can really do that. You can't overthink, because it'll pile up on you. But on the other hand, when they finally do break through, it's so much fun to watch when you finally see them overcome a mental obstacle. It's a lot of fun when you're like, we knew the potential was there. There it is. The other 2 guys I want to talk about have both moved on to pro deals. Jared Davis, who only spent 1 year in the program, but was electric at second base. And then David McCann, who was a bit of a surprise. I didn't even know he was draft eligible until all of a sudden the Yankees decided to sign him after the draft. Those 2 guys had great years and were really important pieces in the development of the
Yeah,
hammer.
JD, Jared he was a good one. He was one of the more athletic guys and strong guys for his size that we've had here at Virginia Tech. And just watching him just change and go through just that process of was a guy in junior college. Now he's seeing better sliders, better fastballs. The game's faster. We tried to really make him fit and play for us in the infield in the dirt, and just being able to coach him day to day more defensively than anything else and watching him get better was awesome. I think his future is going to be in the outfield just because it's such a good run tool. But that's usually a process that takes 2 years. Every junior college hitter that I've worked with, usually it's a year, year and a half, 2 years until they really figure out how to handle the ACC. I've had two guys that have flourished in their first year. One's Kerry Carpenter, it's hitting in the middle of the order for the Tigers, and then JD. But to see that transformation happen earlier than what I'm used to seeing, especially in terms of what JD did, moving positions was good. And he was a big part of our success last year. And then David was just, I mean, it's always been hit first, right? And it's a sweet left-handed swing, and there's tons of power. One of the flattest, cleanest, most bat speed that we've had here since probably Jack Hurley, and the kid could really hit, but he worked really hard defensively. And the opportunity it is what it is, and he decided that's what was best for him, but he was a joy to be around. And he's good. He's a good baseball player, man. He's going to play for a while, I hope.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I was a little disappointed 'cause I had to then go to my spreadsheet, take him out of the returning thing, but, because I had no idea he was even eligible, so that was a bit of a surprise, but good for him, and I hope he does very well at the next level and hits a lot of home runs. But you do get 2 guys that I didn't expect you guys to get back. I thought Clay Grady and Henry Cook might have gone on to the next level. They're both back. How important are those 2 guys? Because obviously the leadership's gonna come from those guys.
Yeah. Leadership is one thing, but experience and almost 1,000 at bats between the two of them in the ACC and at the Division I level is, you can't replace that, right? And just those guys, watching those guys go through their daily process and just how they understand the game, they understand what it takes, they understand, and they're getting better. Don't get me wrong, they're continuing to get better. I think Clay's put on about 10 pounds of muscle, and Cook was injured all last year. It's probably why he's not playing professional baseball. And to watch him grind through the season that he went through, and it was not his best year, but it was a good year. And he still hit 290 with 10, I think, and just being able to catch, and he can really, really throw. So just having those guys around, if anything, just our younger players and our new players, watching them compete in the box and take mature bats, and then watching those guys in the game defensively, it's going to obviously be a big thing for our team. So it's huge having those guys back. We thought we were going to have David and Cook, and those guys flip flop, which is fine, man. It's just the weirdness of college baseball and pro baseball right now. You can't forecast it, right? But we are so happy to have both those guys.
Yeah, I love the fact that you guys, it doesn't matter what year it is or what guys you have there, the catching room is gonna be elite, apparently, because you've got Anderson French back, and then you've got a freshman who looks pretty good in CJ Oxendine. It's just I'm just like, man, they just keep reloading at catcher. But
Yeah.
talking about the outfield competition, you've got an interesting, you got Trayson Hughes back, which is huge. I think ultimately that, having him back after losing him from basically the entire year last year. You got Sam Gates coming over from George Washington. You got Micah Jordan, who I think could be a huge breakout candidate. Nick Lacurdo, who's another one of those guys I think that's been developing behind the scenes and could be somebody who has a breakout. And then I hear Sam Group could be either field or outfield.
Yeah, we have a lot of versatile pieces in the outfield. It's outfield and first base is where a lot of those versatile pieces might end up flowing to, whether it be in starting roles or backup positions. But the strength of the group is really the group this year. I think we have some really good top end players, position players speaking, but the way that our guys can move around and impact our group allows guys not to struggle and allows us to hopefully get some advantages matchup wise. But in the outfield, it starts, I think, with Trey. Just, man, the kid is such a good player, and hopefully he returns to form. Man, we go down, and he's a big part of what happens when we sweep Wake Forest last year. And, and then he kind of limps through the Notre Dame series, and he's just not right. It's 1 game off, 3 days, 1 game on, 3 days off. And we're just fighting that thing. And it was in his best interest to just get his body right. And he's looked awesome this fall. And just his ability to stay in center, move around, defend the way he can defend. And then he's got some splash in his game when it comes to offense. So we're excited about him. Sam Gates, just a quiet kid that has quietly put together an awesome career at GW, and he is just a really good older player, and has a ton of thump and can run and impact the game a lot of different ways. So he's going to be a big part of what we do. And then left field, like you said, it's, between Jordan Lacurdo and moving out one of the infielders. The best thing about it, like I said, our group is we have a small roster. I don't like that. I don't like where it's at. It's just the cards we've been dealt. But the best thing about that is I feel like every one of our players is going to have the ability to impact our team, and every one of them can go into a game, and I think we're going to be able to trust it. So that is a blessing, and it's also a curse if you deal with the injury bug. But the outfield, I think, is going to be a good one with some of those guys that I mentioned.
Absolutely, I'm really excited about it, and it's funny because you got Sam Gates who's coming over from the A10, but he's not the only guy coming over for the 8. I've started to notice when I've been doing my deep dives, the A10 has a massive amount of guys coming into the ACC. I was looking at like the all A10 teams last year, and most of them have come over. They either graduated, got drafted, or they come over to the ACC. But another one is Owen Petrich from St. Joseph's, and he put up some numbers.
Yeah, yeah, and that kid he's getting better daily. I thought overall between just combining offense and defense, he had our best fall. I mean, some of the stuff that he did at third base was awesome, and I think the kid hit 549 this fall. And just is really good at staying in the zone and doesn't swing and miss. And to have that power profile, not swing and miss, is rare. And if you look at his numbers, there was better numbers in the portal, but quietly, just think he struck out 10 times last year and hit 15 homers, something like that, and defended at a high level. And to get that with a bigger kid, it's 6'3", 6'4", and 210, 215, like it doesn't happen. And so he's kind of like a unicorn in today's baseball, just if you look at it. And so for me, he's going to be a fun one to watch.
Absolutely, and you see that kind of number, and you're like, that he may not duplicate that in the ACC, but he'll be able to handle the ACC. When you've got numbers like that, because the A10, even though it's a one bid mid major, they've got like I just mentioned, there's about a dozen of them coming to the conference. They're a very good, strong mid major conference, and you coached in it,
Yeah.
so so But another guy I wanted to talk about, Pete Daniel, who it sounds like could be a guy that actually moves Clay over to a different position in the middle of the infield, how good he is defensively.
Yeah. We were lucky to get Pete and in the recruiting process and beat out some SEC schools for him, which was awesome. But Pete is just a tooled out kid, man. It's a long levered guy that can run, has a knack to steal bases. Another guy that does is just high bat to ball rates, doesn't swing and miss. And we've cleaned up his swing a little bit. I think he would tell you that if you get a chance to speak with him. So he's continuing to get better, but to kind of look past his glove and his arm is a mistake, man. The kid can pick it, and he has a big arm. So how that shakes out at short, I think time will tell. We trust Clay, man. Clay is such a good player, and we know what we're going to get. But, Clay is obviously every player has their limitations, but Clay can do it at a very high level. And Pete's, they're pushing each other. So how that shakes out, I think the month of January and early February will tell that tale. But both of them are really good options, and Pete's a good one.
Yeah, it's always nice because I don't feel like a lot of teams have a lot of true two options at shortstop. You got guys who can be serviceable at shortstop, but you have your one guy, and then you hope he stays healthy. You guys have gotten lucky enough to have those options there. But I wanted to congratulate you again on the recruiting class, the freshman class you brought in. It sounds like you've got some impact freshmen who could be ready to step in immediately. On the offensive side, I already kind of mentioned CJ Oxendine, but another middle infielder, Ethan Ball, and then Eamon Chandler sounds like a guy who could be out there. On the pitching side, Ethan Grimm. I mean, you got the two Ethans on both sides there. And then I haven't heard much buzz about him, but I did notice he was 6'8", a lefty named Austin Dean, who that just sounds like somebody who's going to be difficult to hit.
Yeah, he looks like an alien. I'll start with just the hitting side of it, position player side, I should say. Ball is real. He's going to be really good. Ethan has had a great fall. One of the better offensive tool sets that we've had. I mean, he reminds me of, the DeMartinis and the Hurleys in terms of just the twitch and just the bat speed and his ability to drive baseballs at such a young age. And he's a versatile defender. Played a lot of shortstop in high school. Could see him impacting our team a couple different spots. But That kid's a really good athlete, can really run, has power, and it's left-handed. So he fits, man. He fits the mold. Usually what we look for here at Virginia Tech. So he's a good one to watch. CJ is man, that kid can really catch and throw. It might be our best tool set behind the plate. Even you talk about Cook and Frenchie, and those guys are really good. I think CJ's defense is ahead of his offense right now, but he's got some power potential in there with the bat, and he's figuring it out a little bit offensively. And I could see him impacting our team behind the plate a lot. And then Chandler is a big physical left-handed hitter that has hit at every stop. So with just the opening there, first base, like Chandler's going to have some opportunity to get some run there. Who knows how that shakes out? But I love the freshman hitters that we have, and then Grim Sneaky. That kid is we're lucky to have him here, and he's going to be a big part of our staff. It's a true 3.5, 4 pitch mix, and it's power and it's big time compete over everything else. So he's a bulldog, and I think he knows how to pitch, and he's pitched some really big innings in high school and on state championship teams, and so he's going to be a fun one to track.
Absolutely. I love the grinders, the bulldogs on the mound. It's interesting you mentioned having a small roster, but it sounds like you have a ton of options because we barely mentioned Anderson French in there. We did talk about it with the catching group, but we didn't talk really about Hudson Lutterman, who's back, who had a pretty good year. I know his overall numbers at the end didn't look as good as he actually played at times. And then Ethan Gibson, we didn't really mention. He'll be in the mix for an infield spot. And it's got to feel, I know you've got a small roster, but on both sides of the ball, it feels like you've got plenty of options and could be compete for a spot.
Yeah, I think that the thing that happened to us last year is we just got stuck and pigeonholed defensively, just not whether it be injuries or guys just not performing in the lineup, and it kind of impacted us defensively. And knock on wood, I don't think that's going to happen to this team. And our guys got to go out and earn it. And I have no idea how good offensively we'll be. I love our pieces and I love our depth, but guys like Luderman and Gibby, French is an animal, man. 6'4", left-handed hitter with power and can catch and throw. Those guys, they're really good on paper. They got to go play well. We all know it, but they're good pieces, and we trust them all. We really do. I think that's the strength of our program right now is our ability to put any of our guys on our roster out there, and they're going to bring value one way or the other. Some guys more than others, but I think every one of our guys on our roster is going to be able to go into a game, and we're not going to close our eyes and hope for the best. I think we're going to be excited about each one of them. So the spring's going to be fun, early spring at least, until it shakes out. So, but yeah, those some of those guys that you mentioned, man, are going to be big pieces for us.
Yeah, perfect segue into my last question. Early season, you guys are getting to participate in one of the showcases. How excited are you guys for that? I did see something funny. A Virginia Tech fan had posted, and they were all excited that O'Connor had left the conference, but then you guys get to face him pretty much a couple weekends right away as if he never left.
Yeah, I'm excited because it's going to challenge us, and I feel like our schedule's always been good here, but we've the last couple of years we just haven't finished, and we don't shy away from that. We get it. I think the early part of our schedule this year should hopefully challenge us in a way like we got to force ourselves to play good baseball. You go down to Arlington and in the Omega Classic, I think that's how it's pronounced, and we're going to catch A&M, Tennessee, and Mississippi State, and that's going to be great. And then we come back and we got UVA and Georgia Tech. So that 3-week stretch there to start the season, and if we have Rutgers coming to town, it's a challenging schedule, but hopefully it allows us to learn a lot about ourselves and hopefully hit some. Everyone wants to go undefeated and have a really good start to their season. We know we're going to hit some speed bumps, but having our group that's a little unproven go through that early should be a good thing, hopefully.
Absolutely, and like I said earlier in the show, it's those speed bumps. It's about how you respond to them, and I think the team is set up well to kind of respond to that. And it sounds like past experience could help play a factor in getting over those speed bumps because everyone's going to have those speed bumps. It's whether you come back up or stay down. So I'm really excited to see how you guys are set up. I'm really excited about Virginia Tech. And like you said, that schedule being that competitive early, I've got to start circling now to see when I'm making it down to Blacksburg.
Yeah, it'll be warm, I promise. 75 and sunny starting January 15th. So open invite, man. Whenever you whenever you want to head down here.
Right, right, okay. As long as as long as the press box has the heat working, no,
That's right.
so anyway, that's gonna do it for me unless you have anything else you wanna share, coach?
Nah, just excited for everything, man. Just where sports at. It seems hectic at times and it's chaotic in the recruiting process. And there's a lot of rules that obviously have changed from year to year, but I think the product in college baseball right now is going to be really good this year. It's fun to watch, and you do a lot for the sport. So guys like you make it fun to be around and fun to be a part of.
Thank you so much. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get as many people to so I can just talk baseball, college baseball with anybody. I'm just trying to share my fanhood, but I really appreciate that. It's been great to talk to you. Can't wait to catch up with you in Blacksburg at some point, or even if it's on the road at some point. But until then, go Hokies.
Yeah, man, no doubt. Enjoy the holidays, man.
Thanks.
Be
You
safe. Thanks, Monty.